Hi, it's Megan. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you our hits and misses this year from our homeschool year. I'm going to be talking about what went well, what didn't go so well, some changes that we'll be making, and some things that we're going to be working on throughout the summer. Okay, so to start off, this year I had a second grader. My oldest daughter is 7, and I also had a preschooler for my youngest daughter who's 3. She'll be turning 4 this summer. This year we used The Good and the Beautiful for my second grader. We used math, language arts, and handwriting for her for that. And then my youngest used Playing Preschool from Busy Toddler for her preschool curriculum. And then we also used The Good and the Beautiful science. And then we kind of put a mishmash together of some like unit studies and history and those kinds of things. So for things that went well, so The Good and the Beautiful's second grade math went really, really well for us this year. My daughter really, really liked it, and she did super well with it. We didn't really have any problems with it at all. And then overall, my daughter also did really well with the Good and Beautiful language arts. She did much, much better at spelling this year than she did last year, and got much more proficient with her reading. We did have a little bit of pushback with writing, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in the misses section. For my preschooler, we used Playing Preschool Year 1 by Susie Allison, who's Busy Toddler on Instagram and always has great parenting, preschool, little kid, big kid content. I really, really like following her. But I used this with my oldest daughter as well when she was in preschool, and it's just my favorite. I love it so much. My youngest daughter has learned a ton, but it's all been very fun, play-based activities and reading-based, like literature-based activities, which are just my favorite ways for young kids to learn. So I really loved this, and we'll be using the year 2 for my preschooler for next fall. I just can't say enough good things about this curriculum, and right now I believe it is currently on sale. If it's not on sale right now, it will be on sale again in like August, September. So for less than $30, you can have an entire year's curriculum of like super high quality, easy to follow, easy to set up curriculum. And I just can't say enough good things about this curriculum. I just love it so much. Another thing that went well is this was our first year introducing like a formal science curriculum into our homeschool, and we used The Good and the Beautiful's Science for Little Hearts and Hands. This year we did the Fields and Flowers. We haven't actually finished this yet. And this is something that we will be continuing through the summer, just because we weren't as consistent with it throughout the year as we probably could have been. So we're going to finish this up this summer, and then in the fall we're going to start on another one of the Little Hearts and Hands. These are designed for K2, so kindergarten through 2nd grade, but my preschooler hasn't been able to follow along and answer the questions and do just fine with them. And we're not quite ready for the more of a commitment that the more formalized and a little bit more, not harder, but just different, designed for older kids science units. We're not quite ready for those yet. Even though they do start at a 3rd grade level, I think we're going to wait until my oldest is in 4th grade to start those. So, but Little Hearts and Hands science is so good. The lessons take literally like less than 15 minutes. It just gives you a lesson. It gives like a very short opening activity, a little introduction, and then every week there's either a little video that's on the Good and the Beautiful app, or there's a story that's in this book that also comes with the curriculum. And the pictures are beautiful. The stories are great. They give lots of good information. And then after that, there's always discussion questions to talk about either the video or the reading that you've done. And then there's also optional activities as well. So we don't always do these. Sometimes we do if they're easy and if I have the supplies, and if they don't, that's fine too. But my kids have really liked doing these science lessons this year. Another thing that went well this year, I don't really have anything to show for it, but we did go to Spain for 2 weeks in April. And as part of our homeschool, the 2nd semester, we started doing a focused unit study on Spain. So we used, I checked out a bunch of books from the library. We talked about where Spain was. We looked at maps. We looked at globes. We read a bunch of books, a bunch of picture books that were about Spain, some nonfiction and fiction books as well. And I went on Teachers Pay Teachers and found a few like printables that we could use. So we made a couple of books, one just about Spain in general, and we kind of went through that, and the girls colored it and we learned more about Spain. And we did one specifically on Barcelona as well, since that's one of the cities that we were going to be in. And so in addition to that, my oldest daughter also started doing Duolingo to learn Spanish. And then my youngest, we just used an Usborne, I think it's like 1,000 first words in Spanish, where we just look at a couple of pages and we just practice saying the words. She doesn't really know a ton of words, but I taught her like the super basics. And so she thinks she can speak Spanish now, which is really fun. But that was something that we really loved doing. And we did do some learning on that about once a week from January through the beginning of April when we left on our trip. And that was something that my girls really enjoyed. And I really liked having like kind of a purpose to what we were learning. Not that all learning, has to have a purpose. It's fun just to learn things for fun. But it was really fun to be able to, take the things that we were learning and then actually go to Spain and see my girls like apply the things that they were learning about, and to have them get excited about the things that we were actually seeing. Because they were things that we had talked about previously. And then my last hit for this year, thing that went really well, was my planning. It's not necessarily curriculum related, but it's nice for me to stay organized. So I just got this planner cheap on Amazon. It's a teacher planner, and how I had it written down, it's written more for like teaching class periods. But it has each day of the week where I just highlighted it in a color. And then let's actually find a better example. Here's a good one. So each day of the week, I just highlighted it in a color. And then when I was making my plans, I would write it all in pencil. And so I would have stuff for like our group study, so like our church study and our social emotional learning study. I'd write those in the first column, what we were doing each day. Then for my oldest daughter, I'd write what we did for her language arts, what we did for her math. And then I also wrote down what we did for our loops. So these were the things that we only did once or twice a week. So these were things like history or science or art, those kinds of things I also wrote down just in pencil. And then on the other half of the planner, I wrote things that we were doing out of our house. So if we had a field trip, if my girls had one of their classes, or if we had like dentist appointments or, weird things like that, play dates, play group, whatever. I just wrote that here just so that I'd be aware when I was planning my curriculum for the week. I'd know what days we needed to do which things, if we needed to double up, and just kind of to help with planning on things that took us outside of the house. And then for my youngest, I wrote down what book we were reading for her unit. And then I wrote down the first activity we were doing, the second activity we were doing. And then I just left one column just for notes if there's anything I needed to prep for the next day, or something in addition that we needed to get to, or an additional practice or something that my kids needed to do. I could just write that down over here, and that would help me plan for the next day or for the next week. And this went really well. After we did something, I would go through and I would highlight it with the corresponding color. So these things that I planned for Monday, if we did them on Monday, then I would highlight them in the pink. There were some cases where we didn't maybe get to something because somebody was sick, or I don't know, just for random reasons. Like here at the end of the week, at the end of the school year, we were kind of trying to push things in, and we had some sicknesses, so things got kind of all mixed around. And so on Wednesday is green. So we did the things that I planned for Wednesday, we did on Wednesday, but we didn't get to the things on Tuesday. And so the stuff we did on Tuesday, the stuff that I planned for Tuesday, we got done on Wednesday. So I also marked that down in green. And that was just helpful for my records, to just kind of see when we did things, how often we were missing things and needed to reschedule things. But this system I have really liked, and I will definitely be continuing with this system in the fall. And then the last, I guess one other hit that I just thought of was my kids both started ninja classes. So my husband and my kids really, and me too, really love watching American Ninja Warrior every summer, and it's something that we like doing as a family. And my oldest says that she really wants to compete. So we'll see if that actually happens. But for right now, we found a local gym that offers ninja classes, and it's a really awesome gym that like caters to homeschoolers, which is super awesome. They have great homeschool classes like during a regular school day. So the classes are smaller, they get more individualized attention. It's very low pressure. They have higher levels if you want to pursue those, but they also just have regular, like, come, we'll teach you, but that's not like the added pressure that lots of gyms can have. And so both of my kids have really liked that, especially my oldest has really enjoyed her ninja classes and wants to continue those in the fall. Okay, and then for Mrs. this year, I kind of already mentioned it a little bit, but the Good and the Beautiful language arts, while we did love it, I did find that it was lacking in actual writing. So I used to teach first grade. At the end of first grade, my students were writing much longer and much more fluently than my oldest daughter is now writing at the end of second grade. So in the fall, we're going to look into adding a supplemental writing curriculum just to get her a little bit more practice with that and to help her just become a more fluent writer. I think part of the reason why she doesn't like it so much right now is because she just hasn't had very much practice with it. And I think the more fluent she can get with it, the easier it will become for her and the less she will dread it and put up a fight to do it. So I think we're going to use the the Writing Without Tears curriculum. I've heard some good things about it. It looks fairly simple and straightforward. So I think we're going to start with that, probably on the first grade level of that, and just kind of see how it goes. But if you have any experience with that or have any other good writing curriculums that I could use as a supplement to The Good and the Beautiful, that would be awesome. And I would love any recommendations that you could leave me down in the description box below. Okay, our next miss was art for this year. I had planned on doing some kind of art lesson every week throughout the school year, doing some kind of craft or activity. And while we did do this quite a few times, we also weren't super consistent with it. And I didn't really have like a super great plan. Towards the end of the year, I started planning kind of an art project to go along with some of the things we were learning in science. And that seems to work a little bit better for me. So I think I just need to be more intentional about planning those out. Because if I sit down and I plan them out like for a month or 2 months, then I'm more likely to do them because I've already planned them instead of trying to decide that week what I want to do. So that's something that I want to do better at this upcoming fall, because my kids love doing arts and crafts kinds of things. And the actual like teaching of art and like appreciating art, I feel like we're getting plenty of in The Good and the Beautiful for my oldest daughter. And my youngest daughter, when she starts getting into The Good and the Beautiful, she will also get that as well. But for the actual like making of art and making crafts and those kinds of things, it's something I enjoy doing. And I always liked teaching that when I taught first grade. So it's something I want to do with my kids because they do love it. But it's just something I need to be more consistent with and more intentional with my planning. So another miss was our read alouds this year. At the last summer, we did so many read alouds. We read so many books and we spent at least an hour each day just sitting together on the couch and reading out loud. And I loved it. It was so much fun and such a good way for me to connect with my kids. And I wanted to continue that read aloud through the read aloud pattern through the fall. But when fall started, we just got busy and my husband's work schedule changed, our school schedule changed. And so things just changed enough that it kind of, our read aloud time or like our morning basket was kind of the thing that always fell by the wayside. It was the thing I could always cut in order to do the academics, especially when we had other things going on. So this year I would like to be more intentional about making sure we have that time and maybe flipping my school schedule around again where we start with that and then we can work on our academics. Because our first year homeschooling, that's what we did, is we did do like calendar time and a morning basket together. And then we broke and did our separate curriculums, which was nice. And then this year we kind of flip-flopped it where we did a little bit of calendar time and then we split and did our individual curriculums. And then if we had time, we would come back together. And so I think maybe next year in the fall, I might want to try switching that around again and start with our read aloud time, split for our curriculums, come back together to do our group subjects like science and art and history. Speaking of history, that was also kind of a miss this year. I started out thinking that we'd go through the American Girl books and read all of the books for each girl throughout the specific time periods in history, just to kind of get some stories and to give some context and fun learning about the different time periods with my kids. So we start off with Kaya, which is the Native American girl. And she is pre-Revolutionary War, but some of it was a little bit too intense for my kids. They are very sensitive and don't like anything scary or bad, or even if like a kid is getting in trouble for something, they don't like it. So that was kind of a miss. We got through the first one and then we got to the second one and it was just too intense for my kids. So we just kind of stopped. And also we would do this history reading during our read aloud time. And so since we kind of stopped doing our read aloud time, that kind of fell by the wayside. But after we got back from Spain, I knew that we'd be going on a week-long trip to New Mexico, including, we'd spent most of our time in Albuquerque, but we also were going to spend some time in Santa Fe. And so I did start reading the Josefina books to my kids because she lives on a rancho just outside of Santa Fe, just to give my kids a little bit of context and history for some of the things that we were going to be seeing there. And they did really like the first one, and we have started reading the second one as well. So I think we're going to try continuing with that again in the fall, maybe skip Kaya and just start with, maybe go back and do Felicity after we finish Josefina. I'm not sure kind of exactly what order we'll do things in. But I also have a few other plans with what we're going to do with that with those American Girl books and with the history piece, that I'll talk about when I talk about our fall curriculum later this summer. And then our other miss was PE. In our first semester of the year, we live by a university, and they have their like pre-service, their pre-service health teachers teach homeschool PE so that the college students can get practice teaching, and then the homeschool kids can get like a more traditional PE experience where they're playing games with other kids. And we did that our previous school year for both semesters, and we loved it. The teachers are super energetic. They're super fun. The professor who leads it is super duper awesome, and it is a really, really good experience. But this year they had to switch the location of it, and the location was just such a pain between where we could park and where the location of the actual class was just such a pain, especially in the winter, where we had to walk a pretty good distance. And we live in Montana, and so the winters are really bad. They're super icy, super snowy, super cold. And so it was just getting to be more of like a pain to go. And so since my kids both started their ninja classes, we finished our first semester with the homeschool PE class, but we dropped it for the second semester. So if they move it back to the original location or change the location to something that's more convenient, we'll definitely sign up again for it. But this year it just didn't quite work out and pan out how we wanted it to. And then my last thing that was kind of a miss was my consistency. That's something that you definitely need to have if you are homeschooling. And I wasn't as consistent as I could have been. I feel like this was the case last year as well. There are times where I was very consistent and very good in our routines, and other times where we were not. But this year, I feel like especially, we started off our school year pretty strong. We actually started a little bit later than we did the previous year. And I think that was also part of the reason why we kind of felt a little bit more scrambly at the end. So this year, I think we will start more mid-August instead of after Labor Day like we did this past school year. Also this year, like in October, we had a bunch of visitors, and then we had my daughter's birthday, and then we had a trip, and then we had Halloween, and then we had another trip planned, and then we had my grandpa's funeral, and then we had a week at home, and then we were away for Thanksgiving. And so from basically like the end of September, beginning of October until Thanksgiving, we had just crazy times. And so it was very difficult to be consistent with school just because of all of the things that came up. But something that I'm grateful for with homeschool is that we could take that break, and we were still able to fit everything in, and we were able to finish before Memorial Day, which is kind of what I would like to do. So we just had a lot going on. And our first year homeschooling, we did do a 4-day school week. That worked really well with my husband's schedule because he had Mondays off of work, and so we could have Monday be like our family day, and then we would school Tuesday through Friday. But about a month into our homeschool year this year, his job changed and his work schedule changed a little bit, so that now he just has a traditional work week where he works Monday to Friday and has off Saturday and Sunday. And so because of that, we did try to switch around our schedule a little bit more. We started out doing a 4-day week, but the second half of the year we switched to 5-day weeks so that we could get enough school done in anticipation of our 2-week. So we could take our 2-week break in April to go to Spain, and our almost 1-week break in May to go to New Mexico. And so the 5-day a week school schedule is actually working pretty well for us. So I think we will try and do that again in the fall, and just start out that way and see how it goes. And then we can either finish our school year early, or we can drop down to 4 days a week. And it'll just be a little bit more easy to take longer breaks as we need them and want them throughout the year, because we won't be trying to play catch up the back half of the year. So just being able to, being able to be consistent, and just other outside circumstances just made it very difficult to be consistent at multiple points throughout this school year. So that's something that I definitely want to work on and improve on in the fall as well. So for the summer, we're going to be continuing working on, my oldest daughter is going to be continuing working on the level 2 of handwriting. I did get a second level 2 book, so she can continue to work on that through the school year. I don't think she's quite ready to do cursive yet. We're still working on printing. So she's going to do another year of the level 2. This one she's just finishing because she didn't finish it this year, because at the start of the year she was still finishing the level 1, which is fine. I'm not that concerned. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we're also going to be finishing our science units. I can't remember how many we have left, but we'll finish those this summer so that in the fall we can start on another curriculum. I think it's wind and water or something like that, weather and water, something like that. And then also this summer I want to get back into doing our read aloud basket and kind of spending that time together as a family doing our read alouds together in the mornings. So we will also be working on that this summer. And hopefully this video has shown you that some things can go really well. There's always things that go well during a school year. There's always things that, didn't quite go so well or were a little bit of a miss, but can be improved on and done better the next year. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you are interested in this kind of content. I do lots of homeschooling and just kind of home life videos. Also make sure to leave me a comment with any good writing curriculums that you have for like first, second, third graders. I would really, really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week with a new video. Bye.